have Jessica Gardner of ArtGlish. I have a little information here about Jessica. She is a language coach with a background in art and ESL, which is English as a second language. And in this workshop, she'll have some interactive strategies to help you make your portfolio language more accurate, engaging, and organized. So that said, I'll turn it over to Jessica and she'll give you some more information about herself. Thank you.
Well, so just to give you an idea of sort of what this presentation is going to be like, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and myself. Then we'll get into sort of the main part of the talk, and I'll give you the why, the what, and the how of writing good portfolio language and sort of my basic suggestions for how you can make yours more engaging and accurate and organized. Our talk, sharing your artistic vision with better portfolio language. As Diane said, oops. I have a background in art, so I was a fine art major and art history major as part of my undergrad. And so I got to try out a lot of different mediums. And I've also worked as a freelance designer kind of off and on for the past 20-ish years. So I've dabbled in a lot of things, but my favorite mediums, I would say, are metal casting, stained glass, and Photoshop. So I saw at least a couple people that mentioned glass work, so I can relate. Those are really fun. It's a really fun medium. And then somewhere, I guess in my 30s, I kind of decided to make a career transition, and I really wanted to do, like kind of a service type job. And so I decided to go into teaching. And I really love traveling and learning about people from other cultures. So I got drawn toward teaching English as a second language. And that's been a really rewarding opportunity for me. I've taught in several different universities over the past 8 years. I taught at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco and the California College of the Arts, both in San Francisco and Oakland. So given me a nice chance to kind of work with some, aspiring art and designers. And that's kind of what gave me the idea for starting my business, because I really love art and design. I really love teaching English and helping people. And so I thought, why not put them together? So my business is called ArtGlish, and I'm a language coach. So I specifically help, you've probably all heard of business English. This is kind of like the creative version of that. So I help people talk about their work. People who might feel nervous, or people who might not speak English as a first language, basically anyone who feels like they just feel kind of anxious about sharing their work or speaking about their work or writing about their work. I help them kind of get it down in a concrete way so that they feel more confident and have more opportunities. Because, even if you make really beautiful work and, people can appreciate it without knowing much about it, sooner or later, situations are going to come up that you're going to have to be able to talk about it or write about it. And, I want to help people get out there and be as effective as possible by having good portfolio language. So the main thing that I offer is what I call a portfolio language review, where basically I look at the way you describe your work and give you suggestions to help you improve the credibility, the terminology, and the hierarchy. So those are kind of the main things I'm going to be talking about this evening. The first part is the why. So why is it important to write good portfolio language? I know some people feel like, oh, well, my work speaks for itself. I don't really need to be able to say a lot about it, or, I want people to form their own opinions, so I don't need to tell them what it's about. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you feel like it's important to have good portfolio language, or do you think it's better to let the audience, or your viewer kind of make up their own minds about what it's for? Yeah, so I assume if you're here, you probably agree that it's important to have good language to be able to talk about your work. Because like I said, eventually, if you, want to talk to the press about what you're doing, or you need to apply for some kind of grant, or you want a gallery show or a commission, it really helps to be able to describe it in a way that, you know, is clear and that you feel confident about. So, you know, that's kind of, I would say the main purpose is helping your audience to understand your work and to engage with you more. You know, that really is an opportunity to draw them in and tell your story. And it also shows that you know what you're doing, and it, you know, you didn't just kind of stumble upon making whatever you've made. You've put a lot of thought into what you're doing. But it will make future tasks much easier. So if, you know, you have to interview or, like I said, apply for a grant or a residency or something, or, you know, maybe you need to answer questions with someone who's interested in being a patron, you know, whatever the situation, if you've already taken the time to think about and sort of clearly choose your portfolio language, you already know what to say. So it makes all those other tasks that much easier. And then you'll be more prepared too when people, you know, spontaneously ask you questions. You'll already kind of have all that language ready for you. What should you include in your portfolio language? This is probably pretty obvious, but what do you think? What kinds of language do you think you need to have in your portfolio? Action words, process, description, goals, inspiration, how long you've created art. Yeah, those are good ideas. I'm thinking specifically about like the kinds of things you'll need to write. So, you know, a lot of artists have a bio, something that explains their background, you know, some of the things you're talking about, what inspires you, how long you've been working. Artist statement is pretty important. You know, that's kind of more talking about what you hope to accomplish with your work and what your work means and, you know, your process. It's good to have a description of your overall body of work, I would say. But then sometimes you might also need descriptions of individual pieces or individual series, depending on, you know, how you display it or what the occasion is. So, you know, those are, I would say, the 4 things that you probably want to make sure that you have to some degree. So we cover the why and the what. That brings us to the how. So as I mentioned, one of the things I often talk about in my portfolio language reviews is how can you improve your credibility? So first of all, why do we need credibility? That's basically what allows people that you don't know to trust you, right? To feel like they can trust you. So how many people have had this experience? You are scrolling through your social media and you see some artwork that you think looks cool, and so you go to look at the artist's website, and when you get there, either you find that the writing is full of mistakes, or it's written in such an artsy way that you really don't understand what they're saying, or there's just like nothing written at all. There's like no information, it's just that thing. Yeah, so how does that affect your feelings then about that artist or that work? Do you feel like that changes your enthusiasm, or does that change your opinion of the work, or does that bring up any concerns when that happens? Still like the art? You hope they're better in person? Yes. Yeah, it depends. I mean, it kind of depends on what it is that you're looking at. You know, some things, if the work is beautiful, it's beautiful and you don't care about whether the person can talk about it or not. But I know for me, you know, sometimes if there's something I'm thinking of buying and I see either that like the description doesn't make sense, or it has a lot of mistakes, or like maybe there's nothing there at all, then I feel a little more hesitant because I'm like, well, I'm not really sure if this is what it looks like. Like, I'm not quite as likely to, you know, jump for my wallet if, you know, something is wrong with that description, or if something kind of like blocks me from fully understanding what it is that I'm buying. So, you know, if you can take down those barriers by improving your credibility, you know, that just makes it that much easier for the person to trust you and take the relationship to the next level, either maybe following you or buying something from you. So, you know, that's why I think starting with credibility is important, because, you know, people people will say like, oh, well, it doesn't matter as long as my work is good and my work is strong, then this stuff doesn't matter so much. But I think it can matter. I think people are kind of swayed by the way you present your work, both in the way you talk about it and in, the images of the work itself. What can you do to improve your credibility? Anybody have an idea? Yeah, that's a good point. If someone doesn't take the time to check that their language is good, then you might question the quality of the work. That's true. Get feedback. Yes, that's a good idea. Better descriptive speech. Have it reviewed by pros. Yes, that is certainly an option. Clear descriptions. Yeah, those are all good ideas. Definitely. Well, here are the suggestions that I came up with, kind of similar to what you said. Of course, the biggest thing is taking the time, because people put so much time into creating this beautiful work, but then they don't want to take the time to write about it well or to think about what they want to say. And that can make such a huge difference. So, I really encourage you to try to set aside some time to really think about what you want to say or write and make it clear, write it out, get it down. And then, it'll just be a matter of practicing. That makes it easier. Proofreading, of course, is always a great idea. If you haven't tried Grammarly, I highly recommend it. It's a free program that you can install on your computer, and it checks like pretty much just about every app. It might not check all of the Adobe programs, but it checks many, many, many programs and will correct you, like even in your email, even in your like texting, anything. I use it all the time. Get feedback from others. That's what a couple people said. Of course, it's great to share it with some of your friends or other people in your field or who do similar work, so they can tell you whether it's clear. And then it's always a great idea to look at other artists that you admire for ideas, inspiration, kind of see how other people are doing what you want to do. And of course, we never want to copy, but use them kind of as a model to help us decide. So in addition to credibility, we also want to think about terminology, or the words and phrases that you use to describe your work. Many mediums have their own specific terminology, right? So I know that there are several people here who said that they paint. So, you can say I paint or I'm a painter, but like, that's not very specific. Do you use watercolor or gouache or oil or pastels or acrylic? Like there's a lot of terminology kind of specific to different mediums. So of course, step one is making sure you know all of that language and making sure you know how to use it well. And then again, you can look at other artists you admire, other people who do similar work, and get inspiration, get ideas about the way that they talk about their work. That can help you find the best language for yourself, and kind of give you a start in the process if you haven't really started writing about your work yet. But one thing, that I always encourage people to start with, of course, is a good brainstorm. That's always a good way to get the ideas flowing. So what kinds of things do you think would be good to include in your description? What kinds of adjectives, what kinds of words do you want to think about including? Do you want to type your ideas in the chat? Avoid jargon. That's true. Yeah, you don't want to be so technical that people can't understand you. So there again, that's a good place to get feedback. You want to make sure you're using the correct terms, but you want to keep it at a level that the average person can understand. That's a good point. Well, some of the things, that you can talk about are, just the way you would describe it. So, talking about the colors, the textures, the sizes, the shapes, the medium or the material, and then if there's any motion to your piece, either implied motion or actual physical motion. So those are all, just like the visual, obvious things that you can talk about. But then you also want to think about, okay, how do I want my audience to feel when they see this work? What kind of emotional words might I use to convey either how I feel about the process of making this work, or, you know, what emotions am I trying to elicit from my audience? So, you know, brainstorming a little bit about some of those emotive type words can be really useful as well. And then thinking about your process, you know, what sorts of action words, what sorts of verbs do you come to mind when you think about your process, the process of making your work, or, you know, if your piece moves at all, what action words come to mind? And it's better here to use more active verbs than passive. You know, people like action. It's more gripping to use active words. So try to use, you know, action verbs rather than passive verbs whenever you can. And of course, if you're talking about work you've already completed, you want to put that all in past tense, but trying to incorporate that kind of action feeling is good. And then, you know, what makes your work unique is kind of the last main one. So you want to be really specific and talk about how you stand out. So, you know, if you look at other people who do kind of similar work to yours, what's different about yours? What's special about yours? Because sometimes people feel kind of self-conscious, or maybe they feel insecure about things that make them different or that make them, you know, unlike other successful people. But I found that often the thing that makes you different is really what will get you more attention in the long run, or the thing that kind of makes you stand out. So, you know, really take some time to think about what that is and how that can be a benefit to you. Now that we kind of have all of our main points in place, I kind of want to show you how effective they can be. And like I said, it can be really helpful to look at other people's work and see what they've written, just to, you know, kind of inspire you and give you some examples. So that's what we're going to do. And fortunately, the ArtSpan site is a great place to start. There are a lot of artists that have their portfolios, or, you know, samples from their portfolios there. And Diane has been kind enough to offer her page as an example for us to look at. So thank you, Diane. So I've intentionally scrolled past the beginning of Diane's page here, where she has her artist statement shared for you, because first I want to see, you know, for people who are not already familiar with her work, what kinds of language you come up with just looking at it without having read what she's written first. So assuming that you're not already super familiar with her work, please write in the chat what you think her work is about based on what we're seeing here. So I'll scroll down. There's 6 images here. So feel free to share what words or ideas come to mind. How would you describe this work? What do you think it's about? You guys are writing so fast. Found objects, assemblage, time, fantasy, life moments, whimsical, allegoric, poetic, complex, imaginative, clever. Wow, lots of good words. Why do you think, what would your guess be? Why do you think she makes this kind of work? Telling a story. Nostalgia, personal observations. Let's talk about the emotional aspect of it. How do you feel about this work? What emotions come up when you look at it? Calming, old, creative, mysterious. I feel very curious about it. It makes me think of like 100 questions I want to ask her. Reusing. How about thinking about her process? What, some people already shared a couple of action words, but what action words do you think she might use to describe her process? Anybody have ideas? Reuse would be a good one for that. Collect. Cycling. Yeah. Treasure hunting. Yes. Searching. I think some of you have read her profile already. These are good guesses. Thrift store. And then finally, what would you say makes this work unique? How is it different from other artists who make similar kinds of work? Right, the objects themselves are unique. The details, somewhat monochromatic. That's true. There's some of that. Right, the way she puts it together is very unique. Her humor, yeah, those are all good. Yeah, movements in the assemblages, yeah, totally. Yeah, the way they're put together obviously is unique. Good. All right, well, now that we've kind of analyzed, you know, our thoughts and feelings about her work, let's scroll up and actually read the artist statement. I'll read it aloud for you. I have a tendency to personify inanimate objects and feel genuine compassion for those that are damaged or disregarded. I see potential in broken bits and find beauty in rust and erosion. The older an object, the more haunting and alluring its ghost. Collage and assemblage art allow me to indulge these concepts by creating dimensional worlds of allegory, where tall tales are told, jokes are cracked, emotions stirred, and poems imparted. My treasure hunt is rummaging through thrift shops, flea markets, reuse centers, garage sales, junkyards, attics, and basements for precious baubles, bits, and boxes. Sometimes an inspired idea will come upon first sight of an object, but more often I will mull through my neatly organized piles of arbitrary things, repetitively placing random items together until something visually clicks and the piece takes hold. I like to link organic objects from nature with industrial and figurative remnants by combining complementary muted color schemes to harmonize dissimilar media. The narrative facet of each piece often derives from the variety of music I'm listening to, a phrase that strikes me, or a sentiment I'd like to give visual context to. My intent is to portray a delicate balance between light and dark by depicting the sincerity found in their unified stories. I think you guys did a great job of coming up with a lot of language that matched what Diane has written here. I think, you know, you did a good job of sort of assessing what it is she's getting at and, you know, what her goals are kind of and what her process is even a little bit. So for people who didn't know about Diane's work before today, was anyone surprised by what you've read now that you have seen her artist statement? Any surprises about what she wrote compared to your first experience of it? Fits well, it's a good story. Oh, that she was inspired by music? Yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, things that you might not necessarily be able to guess. This is her artist statement. So whole body of work, right, Diane?
Yeah, this is my standard artist statement for everything I do.
I thought it was interesting when I read this the first time, when she's talking about feeling compassion for those damaged or disregarded objects. My sister is the same way. She feels sad about things that get left behind. So do you feel like now that you've read her artist statement, even though you made a lot of good guesses about it, do you feel more interested or more able to connect with what you're seeing now that you know her thoughts about it? I really felt like my appreciation increased after I read your artist statement because, you know, I can come up with my own narrative about what I think these things mean or why you do it. But, you know, I think this is a great example of how taking the time to really think about your work and what it means and how to describe it for someone. Yeah, it's more engaging. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So I'm glad you guys agree. I thought this was a really good example. So thanks, Diane.
Yeah, thank you. This was very interesting on my part as well. Thank you everybody for your wonderful commentary. That was really
cool. Yeah, and another thing I'll point out, so this is, you know, just a sample that she's got on ArtSpan, but another thing, let me see if it will let me switch over. Is it on your website now?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I just wanted to point out, since we're talking about hierarchy, is that, you know, so this is Diane's personal website, and this is her about page, which, you know, everyone really ought to have. And it's very nice because she's clearly shown, here's her bio, here's her artist statement. So this artist statement is what we just read, but her bio is kind of what you'd expect, you know, more about her background, more about, you know, kind of how she got into making this kind of art, what she does. And I've seen so many artists, when I go to their website, a bio is all they have. And sometimes all they have is just like a list of all their shows, which is, kind of interesting, I guess, but like, not like I'm going to sit and like read your list of 20 shows or whatever, I might like skim it, but it's much more meaningful to read about, I came to your website, I came to your about page because I want to know something about you more than just your list of shows. So I would really encourage people to take the time, whether you have a website or whether you use Behance or wherever it is that you show your work, to take the time to like write a nice bio and an artist statement, because it really, I think, contributes to the audience's experience of the work in a meaningful way. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. Even though this is a nice, simple design, you can see the hierarchy. She's got the sort of heading here in bigger, bolder text. So it's very easy to see which section is which. There's clear white space. There's clear, clear borders everywhere. And you might think that seems really basic, but I've looked at a lot of people's portfolios that are just kind of a jumbly mess. So, this is an example of what I'm talking about with visual hierarchy, just making it very clear and easy to read and easy to understand the flow of the language. So now that you have seen a great example, anybody have questions? Oh, here we go. How do you approach an artist statement when you are a multidisciplinary artist doing various types of art? Good question. I would say feel free to give your thoughts to Mabel in the chat, but I would say that even if you are a multidisciplinary artist, I would imagine that there are themes that drive your work, things that inspire you, things that consistencies throughout, or things that you're looking to explore, or questions you're trying to answer, and maybe talk about those things as kind of like your overarching statement. And then, maybe pick a few specific examples to emphasize, or, to, serve as examples of those things. Because yeah, of course you can't like go into, if you do like 10 different mediums, you can't go into all of that. But I would imagine for most people, maybe it's even just learning something new. Like I really love just trying new mediums for the first time and like seeing what I can do. And even if I might approach projects really differently, that the excitement that comes with learning a new process is part of what motivates me. So, something like that kind of applies universally to anything you might do. So I would try to contemplate whether you have some of those like kind of universal themes across your disciplines. Anybody else have a suggestion for Mabel?
I also feel like while it might be good to have a couple sentences about your general inspiration, if you have several different mediums you work in, perhaps write an artist statement for each one and separate them. So you don't have to have them all under one statement. Many mediums go in completely different directions, and you might have different inspirations for them. So you can write an individual statement for each type of medium.
Yeah, good advice.
Oh, Louise is asking, can Diane speak about her last line of the artist statement? I would like to understand it better. Oh, okay. So my last line is, my intent is to portray a delicate balance between light and dark by depicting the sincerity found in their unified stories. So my artwork is typically viewed as having a bit of a dark quality, meaning the word is often used, creepy elements by nature of, yeah, I mean, that's sort of my aesthetic, but there are also a lot of playful whimsy in them. There's a sense of humor for sure. I think somebody made that comment, and thank you for noticing that. Not everyone notices it right away, but if you spend enough time with it, there is equal parts of humor as there are some more mysterious, eerie, unsettling qualities. And I try to carefully balance them so that you're not left with too much of one or the other, that you walk away feeling them in equal measure. And I feel like that is perhaps one of the most strong qualities that make my work unique. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Yes. Great. Well, now that we've seen sort of an example of, this process, I guess it's time to invite people to share your work. If anyone would like to get this kind of discussion feedback about one of your pieces, I'd invite you to let Diane know in the chat, and then we'll try to make it so that you can share your screen. I'll stop sharing mine. And then we can continue the discussion.
Okay, so Sophia would like to share. Wonderful, I'm so glad.
So is there some particular feedback you're looking for, Sophia, or just kind of the same things we've been talking about?
Well, okay, so I'm no longer on the screen, but I think you can hear me, right?
Yep, I can see.
Okay, good, cool. So I actually am not real good at talking about my own work. I think probably a lot of people are like that. And I mean, so these are oil paintings with abstract backgrounds and words that I choose that I'm a voracious reader, so I choose words that feel very timely. So there are, themes of language, themes of texture, themes of sort of provoking consideration. I don't want to tell people what to think, but I'm trying to sort of be thought-provoking or engaging. But I really don't know how to talk about these very well. Typically at Open Studio, I don't say too much except hello and welcome to my studio.
Yes. Okay, well, let's try out some of the stuff we've been talking about today then. If you guys could put in the chat again, sort of your initial thoughts about Sophia's work, what words or phrases come to mind when you see this piece? So monochromatic we have, yeah. Engaging, Thought-provoking, yes. Ooh, mysterious. Yeah, the way it looks, the color, the texture, the line, the shape, those kinds of things. Or we could also talk about, as some of you are, the feelings that come up, the sort of emotional words you might associate. A protest, yeah. Could be. Telling stories, activism. What about action words? Any verbs, action words come to mind that she might use to describe either her process or, sort of any movement that you see within the work? Bold, dimensional, linear, that's a good one. Definitely, I would say like layered too, like my eye keeps kind of jumping back and forth between the text layer and the background layer. So that interplay is kind of fun. I see very strong visuals, but can't read the words and not sure of the message. Colors and textures make me think serious and strong. Magical jumble to create a faux texture. What makes this work unique? Anybody have thoughts about that? Oh, someone's asking about the scale.
These tend to be sort of larger, typically 30 by 30 up to 3 feet by 4 feet.
Yeah, so people are saying the choice of words, it kind of looks like coding. I like that idea. It does kind of look like coding. Abstract versus structure. Yeah, so some good comments. Any other specific questions you have, Sophia?
Is it too I'm just curious, do people find it, yes, I am using a stencil for the texting, but it's hand stenciled, so it's actually very labor intensive, but I don't know that that really comes across. Yeah, I'm sort of wondering if people feel any kind of like engagement or drawn in, or is it just sort of too confusing to people, or too difficult to enter.
Since I am constantly looking up words in the dictionary, it makes me think of a dictionary entry. I don't know if that's...
Yes, I use definitions on purpose, but I choose which, definitions are very long, and part of it is how language changes and morphs through different times. And but so I pick the parts out of the definition. I don't change them, but I pick out the parts that that seem most appropriate at a given time.
Well, it looks like, judging by the comments you're getting in the text, that some people find it engaging, but maybe are struggling a little bit to read it, or aren't finding it engaging because they're struggling to read it. So I would say, that's a great sort of reason to have a good artist statement, so people are able to engage a little bit, or maybe to make it easier for people to engage by setting them up with a little context so that they can understand what your goals are, what you're trying to get across.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mabel, are you there? Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. This is awesome. I'm like, okay. So I guess I just jumped in the opportunity and I said, okay, I've been waiting too long to write an artist statement for all my work. I think what I've done is mix my bio and my artist statement together, really, so I need to separate them. But I have this sort of like evolving body of work, and they're similar in a way, and I just wanted to share and see what the audience says and see where the pulse is. I started with family portraits of my own family, but then I'm thinking to take it to the next level with a notion of family portraits and immigrant family portraits.
All right, well, let's see what people think. What so in addition to what she just said, what do people think? What's your first impression? What do you think this work is about? What words or ideas come to mind? What words would you use to describe it if you were Mabel? Colorful and engaging, community, family, culture, contrast on many levels. Yeah, very personal, intimate. Reminds you of old painted photos. Personal and engaging family stories. And what about emotions? What feelings come up? Raw, vulnerable, love, generational togetherness, hopeful, poignant. Makes you want to know about the people and their story. Nostalgic. Why would you guess she makes this kind of work? What do you think her purpose is? Sentimental. To honor her community, document, cathartic, tell people about her culture and family, past and people, honor her community. Yeah, those are all good ideas. And what about her process? What do you think her process is like? Do any action words come to mind in describing colorize? Collage. Captivating vibrancy. Ooh. Photo manipulation. Reflective. And what would you say makes this work unique? The colors, yeah. Yeah, the colors are really striking, I agree. Personal aspect of the work, yeah. I mean, when you're using your own family, I think that's pretty unique. Consistent in her style, yeah. She wants to know more, yeah. So Jessica's saying she has a positive feeling looking at them, but she wants to know more. Who are they? Why should I care? Why hanging on my wall, etc. So great reason to write an artist statement to get people more engaged and answer some of those questions. Yes. It makes me very curious too. I want to know about all these stories I'm seeing. Great. Well, do you have any other questions, Mabel, or?
No, I think I got a lot of very good feedback and things to consider, and the balance between what someone said was sad and versus the vibrancy of the colors. I was trying to make them not fully sad. I mean, find a balance between them.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for.
Great.
Thank you so
Well,
much. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yifa, are you there?
Yes.
Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
So I guess I'm looking more just for feedback, but I will say that this was in a multi-artist virtual exhibition for artists who wanted to express something during COVID.
All right. So let's give her some feedback. What initial thoughts come to mind? What words or phrases or ideas? What do you think this work is about?
I'm trying to find out where the comment section is. Okay, chat. Okay. You want to see it?
Clear message of COVID-19. Old color. Yeah, the blue couch does really stand out. That's true. Resilience, hope, strength, composition, colors, vintage. Good color balance. All right. And how about emotions? How do you feel about this piece, or what emotions does it bring up for you? Movement and intimacy. Confrontational. Yeah, it's very right there with the subject for sure. Intensity. Cropping the piece might be more impactful. What about the stillness of the body language? Seems like a set piece. Interesting. Yeah.
What does that mean, a set piece? Like a movie set? What does that mean?
Stage.
Staged, or like you set things in a certain way so that they would appear just so.
Oh, okay.
And what about the process? Any action words come to mind? What you see in the image or process? Dynamic, slice of life, thought out. And what would you say makes this work unique? Carefully designed. Defending one's environment. About a specific occurrence, relaxed and unsettling at once, the setting and the subject. Yeah, some interesting thoughts. There's definitely, for me, I feel like a lot of questions come up too. So it would be,
like,
I would
what
definitely
question?
be, well, just, yeah, questions about like, what is there significance to the elements that are included in the photo, or is it just like someone said, kind of the slice of life? This is just my new reality, relaxing on my couch with gloves and a mask, or are there more intentional cues in the background? I guess I'd love to read an artist statement or an intro about this to appreciate it more.
So just now that I have all of that information, I can just tell everyone this is, the work is called Post Date Night, A Man's Love for His Woman During a Pandemic, Protective Gear, and Social Distancing.
Interesting.
So it's semi set up, but not completely. This is just sort of on the fly, literally after date night. So this was coming in after date night and the actual dealing with the pandemic and how do you protect each other. And he's actually working during the coronavirus and we couldn't be touching at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, dating is very hard right now. So, yeah, that's interesting. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully you got some good ideas.
Thank you.
Karina, are you there?
Sorry.
Bye.
I swear I've done Zoom before. All right,
good.
cool. Let me share my screen. And this is actually perfect because I'm revamping my website right now. So I would really, truly appreciate some
Great.
feedback.
Ooh.
Okay, so this is my website, and currently it's for my performance artwork, but I am also a sound healing artist. I'm getting my meditation teacher training certification, and then I'm also a DJ.
Wow.
Getting into writing as well. So I'm trying to integrate all of that into this site. And when you come to the site, there's music playing, and these are some of the images from some of my performances and whatnot.
Wow. Well, as these are scrolling by, feel free to write your first impressions in the chat of what you're seeing. Color, yeah. Ritualistic, strong, dramatic, yeah. Vibrant. Yeah, the lighting is really dramatic too. Energetic. Looks great, but hard to understand the flow of the website on Zoom. I want to know more. Elegant, extroverted, powerful. What about what feelings come up? A couple people have talked about feelings. Alone. They're wondering about the message. Is it fashion? I guess that's what we'll learn in the art statement. Sophia wants to go to a show. Interpretive, performance, feeling of spirituality. And what about action words? We can see a lot of action in these shots. Shout, movement, bold, moving, dramatic. Volume. Techno vanguardist. Whoa.
Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna have to use that.
Someone's asking what you'd like to change. Also, feel free to write what you think makes this work unique. So people are wondering what you'd like the viewer to do.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely want more interaction on the site. I want to incorporate a blog that has more of my writing on mindfulness and spirituality. And then should I go to my bio and just show what I do? So my work is based in Afrofuturism, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist. So it's very much, based on a ritual-based performance. And now I'm starting to incorporate meditation practices and the healing arts into my performances. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Exciting.
Yeah.
What kind of where do you perform these at? Are they like on a stage, or are they more like a more private type of environment? Or
they've actually been in gallery spaces. Which has been really cool. I like to incorporate video into the performances as well as movement, and then I make the beats, and then I'm a vocalist as well, so then I abstract my vocals as well.
So it's a one-person performance?
Typically,
do it all.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. Hopefully some of those comments will help.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun to see what a wide array of stuff we have to look at here in just this little group.
Thank you.
Just want to say thanks for everyone who took time out of their evening for this. It's a lot more fun with an engaged group of people, so I really appreciate you contributing.